All right, it is 5 PM. We'll call the city council goal-setting session to order. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doing roll call, Councilmember Peterson and Councilmember Heeman and myself are here. Councilmember Lundin will be about 15 minutes late. First, we'll go on to public comment. If there's anybody that wants to speak in public comment tonight, there's nobody in the audience, so staff, anybody? All right, hearing none, we will move on to item E1, purpose for the goal-setting workshop.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It has been the City Council's practice to conduct an annual goal-setting work session that allows everyone to come together to assess the city's current initiatives, establish goals balancing workload and available resources, guidance to obtain desired results and or outcomes, and to discuss the future state of the city. After council's discussion today, staff's going to share some stuff as well. You'll be able to come up with a consensus of top goals for this year and beyond. Included as an attachment is, just for information purposes, is the 2026 organizational chart. And that's all we have for the introduction.
Okay. iPad's loading. All right, so item E2, city capital improvement plan and pavement management maps. Mr. Cook, I assume, or maybe not?
This is just me again.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, this has been put into the packet just as a reminder. As we go through different goals, if we needed to refer back, I wanted to make sure it was handy. This is for informational purposes. It has capital improvement items over 10,000 for all the departments that go from 2026 until 2031, and then as well as updated street project improvement maps, just in case there's any questions on those.
So I did have a question on the mill and overlay figure for the maintenance schedule. It shows the next one that we're due is 2036. Is that correct?
So we were just kind of talking about that. So because we moved up, if you recall last year, we moved up like the next 4 years worth of segments of mill and overlay that we identified up to, last year's project. So that automatically kind of wiped out everything up to like 2030. And then we admittedly haven't individually analyzed like if those future streets are gonna have the little segments as well. So this coming summer, I guess my thought was we'd go tour the 2030 through 2035 streets to be able to have a game plan on if we need to do the same rearranging so we don't keep doing a couple mill and overlays with some seal coats each year. We essentially did this for the this next 4-year topic, but we haven't done it for, the rest of the entire program yet.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm assuming that by 3 years from now, when we get that next wave in, we'll probably do the same thing. We'll want to pull certain segments out that we identify as bad, make those a reorganized set of streets. But right now, since 5 years from now is kind of who knows which street's going to get worse faster, we just haven't quite identified those yet.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I don't remember the last time we didn't have a major or mill and overlay or any sort of, that's, okay. Nick, what does that do for our budget compared to last year? Do you think we'll recognize a savings from not having any mill and overlays this year, or Mr. Cook, versus what we had last year? So maybe this year, I'm hoping less from fund balance?
So I guess how that relates to budget is that our budget is looking at kind of that 15-year period. So we would kind of keep the funding steady in
Okay.
those funds. So we'd keep collecting the same amount of tax dollars so that we don't see significant increases or decreases in what we're receiving for tax revenue in those funds. It's also covered by some of our state aid money and our franchise fees that we receive too. So just with all of those funding sources, the way that it's currently planned out, it is to be able to fund it over that kind of 15-year period. So we shouldn't really see any change in what we're kind of projecting for needs and tax revenue for next year and kind of the next few periods there onward. With a change in that mill and overlay schedule, that may change what that funding needs to look like, but until Jason's kind of had time to go out there and project out where we see needs for projects, we can't really make any assumptions at this time, I guess.
Okay, and so our 15-year projection would that be based on the maintenance schedule that's listed here? Or do we have a set amount, or maybe that's something to have a meeting with you about?
Yeah, you could definitely set up time to talk about it, but it has been based on just kind of Jason's original plan, so it won't be updated for these figures. It'd be based on the previous, but the only changes that we would have there is that stuff that we've pulled forward just happened at a sooner period than was originally projected from, I think those are probably 24 figures, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess just to add to that though, so what we do see, like on the current budget, last year, the project was like 700,000. This coming year is like 300, because we're just doing seal coats. So those years that are past that 2030-ish range, those estimated amount that we need to spend includes some mill and overlay with some seal coat. So like the dollar amount that's waiting is anticipating a little bit of each, and then just that cost benefit of clumping them was the rearranging that I'm kind of implying. So the total dollar amount's kind of accounted for. It's just that it's distributed in little pieces over the years instead of when those years come. If we grab the 5 streets again that need a little bit more and do them a little earlier, hopefully we see a little bit more ultimate 15-year cost savings by doing those mill and overlays together instead of little segments. But right now, they're at least accounted for. They're just kind of blanketed in that general maintenance category. So we just got to figure out which ones to do when.
okay, sounds good, thanks. Did you guys have any other questions on either of the 4, I believe there's 4 documents in that?
I do not.
So on the 20-year road maintenance reclaim, is that what oh, that is railroad, okay. So reclaim, does that mean basically totally redo? Reclaim?
Yeah, that's where we, like we've been doing on Isani Hills and
Yep,
South Brookview, we grind it all up with the underlaying gravel. So essentially blend the bit with the gravel underneath at about a 12-inch depth, and then just remove that top surface and pave it.
sure.
So we don't actually have to lift it all up and like do underground work and then bring it back. It just stays, but it's just kind of that next step on having to maintain the road.
Yep, okay, sounds good. If there's no other questions or comments, we can move on to E3.
All right, for E3, we have 2025 goal progress and updates of status I'll just run through these and let you know where we're at, and then at the end, you can let me know if we have any further questions. This will also be something where if you want to continue these as goals onto 2026, we can discuss that, adding that as well. So we have increased revenue from the liquor store. That's a continuous goal that the city council and staff work towards. Show full representation of each department at budget workshop meetings that include operating and capital improvement plan items for the department. We did that this year for the first time through all of our budget meetings, and also went through each item line by line. Review the CIP list in detail at a budget workshop to determine full scope of needs and replacement. We did that as well as going through the budget during those workshops. We did that this year, and we will continue that as years going on. Continue a segment of sidewalk along the east side of Whiskey Road southwest between south of Dogwood Street and Birch Street. The consensus on this was not to pursue. We've had a lot of roadblocks. It still will be on our mind as we have property owners potentially move on and switch hands. But we are not actively going to pursue any eminent domain or anything like that. So right now it's on our list, but not something we're actively pursuing. Continue a segment of sidewalk along Main Street between Credit Union Drive Northeast and Fifth Avenue Northeast. That one is in progress. We'll be talking about that even this evening at our city council meeting. Increased street lighting. It's been added into our annual budgets, and that is ongoing. Every year we'll be adding a little bit more lights to our street plan, or our lights plan throughout the entire city. Conduct public outreach and public surveys. We've done park surveys. We did Whisper Ridge, which had very good feedback of what to do out there with that basketball court, as well as the skate park, what to do out there. So those were 2 very successful surveys that staff did. Leaf pickup, the consensus was to remove that at this time, just wasn't something that we wanted to consider to put into the budget. It's very expensive to buy that unit to start off with. Additional public communication marketing strategies, that is in progress. We're continuing to do what we can with staff's time. Additional liquor store dynamic sign, that one is in progress. Staff is working with business owners as we can and seeing what kind of properties. That's been kind of at the top of the list throughout the whole year, but haven't got it to fruition quite yet. Community dynamic sign, we did close on the corner triangle parcel at the corner intersection of 5 and 65. So we do own that. One more step to do, but it is in our name and everything, so that just happened last week. So we'll finalize that, and that'll be the location for our community dynamic sign when we decide to move forward with that project. And then CASA 5 lighting infill. We were able to add lights around that pedestrian crossing area, make it more well-lit, kind of lighting that corridor, which is the plan, as part of that roundabout project.
And what's the update on that? I feel like in the admin updates, I continue to see like they'll be out next week to do permanent lighting. It seems like it's been like that for the last 2 months.
It has.
Okay.
So, back when we winterized, they were telling us that it would be late December. And so we thought we were only gonna have those temporary lights in for a month-ish. About 3 weeks later, they said, oh, there's been a delay, it'll be early January. Early January rolled around, we hadn't heard anything, we asked them again, and they went, oh, actually, this fabricating machine went down, we don't know when it'll be.
Oh, great.
And then they did finally give us an update, and I believe the 6th, like as in 2 days from now, is the delivery is supposed to be getting made to the, the lighting subcontractor. And it actually should be finally getting the permanent lights in the next week or so.
Do you believe that?
We've gotten pretty close to the delivery date a couple times.
Okay.
I'm gonna believe them this time.
Okay, every time I drive
But
through
you're
there,
right.
yeah.
I kept having to update it because that's what I'm being told, but,
Okay.
yep.
Every time I drive through there at night, it's like, have they added those lights? It still looks the same. And it's like, maybe they did and I can't tell.
Nope, no,
Okay,
it's coming.
okay, sounds good. And then as far as the conduct public outreach and public surveys, it says, park surveys, Whisper Ridge and Skate Park. I would like to continue doing that. Would that we talk about that in a different item, I assume? Okay, sounds good. Just want to make sure that wasn't getting lost. Any questions on any of those items, guys?
No.
All right, then we will move on to E4, ongoing staff priorities.
So Mayor and Council, this is a memo that I put together of staff continually always works on things in the background. We have large strategies that we take on. They're just kind of part of city operations and good governance. There is an attachment to that memo that is called the Organizational Success Map. That is what I use to help guide our staff on what to spend time on and how things progress, and as we have to make choices of we can work on this or that, because there's just not enough of us sometimes to go around. But I did want to focus on some key areas that I consider our goal areas that staff works on, so I'll share those with you. One of them, and these are not in a prioritized numbering system, not one is more important than the other. So sound city governance with transparent information. Staff will continue to work on our redesigned website to offer improved user experience and easier navigation. Ensure navigation works well on phones and tablets, as we know that that is the primary device that people are using. So we are cross-referencing, and believe it or not, you do have to change things up when you look at it on the website, on a computer, then you look on a phone. So do know that it's a work in progress, but we are working on that to make sure that it is just very user-friendly for everyone.
And let it be shown for the record that Councilmember Lundin is here at 5:14 PM.
Thank you. As time permits, more information will be available on the city website. So we are just continuing to add more, and that'll be current information, but also going back and adding that historical information as we have time. So it can be, we don't anticipate having to change websites again anytime soon. So we're gonna try to make this just super robust and have it just be fantastic here. Another goal area is quality services supported by available resources. So allocate resources to high priority areas first and be transparent with the community about what can and cannot be provided given current budgets. Continue to implement digital solutions like online permit applications and automated bill payment systems. These reduce administrative burden and free up staff for more complex tasks that require person-to-person devotion and time. Invest in preventative maintenance for infrastructure, early intervention programs, and long-term planning. Explore sustainable funding sources beyond property taxes, such as user fees for specific services, looking for grants and other economic development initiatives that expand the tax base. Another goal area is community and business engagement and support. Collaborate with chambers of commerce, educational institutions, nonprofits, and economic development organizations to leverage resources and expertise. Continue small business assistance programs pairing experienced entrepreneurs with startups and workshops on topics like marketing, finance, and business tools. Simplify permitting and licensing processes, which we've already been working on. A safe community with trust protecting people, property, and businesses. Next goal area is fiscal sustainability and planning. Continue multi-year budget forecasts that account for demographic changes, infrastructure needs, and economic trends to help anticipate challenges rather than react to crises. Maintain healthy debt to revenue ratios and use debt strategically for capital investments rather than operating expenses. Maintain a solid reserve fund to weather economic downturns, natural disasters, or unexpected expenses without cutting essential services or raising taxes. Invest in attracting and retaining businesses to grow the tax base, focusing on quality development that doesn't overburden infrastructure. Another goal area that staff works on is leveraging technology to maximize efficiency. This is one thing that department heads have really been working diligently over this last year and even before to make sure what can we do so we're not having to add staff. As we know, adding staff does increase the budget significantly. So I'm very proud of the department heads for looking at every way we can use things like digitizing software to minimize the work it takes for staff. The one that will be coming forward here is software for digitizing payroll. So digitizing payroll would save time for payroll staff as well as department heads. We still do all of our timesheets by paper. It takes paper to fill it out and takes paper back over to the payroll department to then manually enter that in. It's a lot of people touching the papers and having to do a lot of things that could be automated and input right into our Cassell system. It would also increase accuracy with no need to manually enter each of these numbers. It'll reduce complications to allow for time-saving crossover. So we have one person, one staff member who typically does payroll, but if that person is gone, you're relying on someone else to do it, and it's not typically their job. So the more we can shorten the number of steps it takes to get those tasks done, the better it will be. Again, without having to increase staff.
Who generally does that?
It's our assistant finance director.
Okay, and could you, if you were to guess, how much percentage of their time goes into that aspect? Just a rough guess.
Are you looking for just how much time spent on like entering the time cards or kind of the whole payroll process? I guess, what are you looking for there?
Essentially, how much time would it save going to this versus having the employee that we currently have hired do it?
My rough estimate there is probably on a normal regular payroll week with nothing weird, probably a couple hours it's going to save. On a non-standard payroll week where you maybe have some back and forth needed with department heads to get timesheets cleared up and all that, probably 6 to 8 hours in there. So kind of depends how clean it is, how much overtime each department's working, how clean things come in, if everyone remembered to fill out their holiday time, all that type of stuff.
Okay.
And when it comes to other departments that have key punches in, so liquor store has a system that's different than the public works system, that's different than the PD system. Everybody kind of has their own system that needs to be reviewed manually from the punches to the timesheet, and that gets submitted. So saving time for the department head, because this would try to standardize everything, so then it gets put into the system for payroll. The cost for this is $4,776 annually, and then $3,900 for a one-time implementation to get the software set up. And then you can see the allocation that I had in the memo there. This is just one thing. We're hoping to implement this year, so this will be coming to COW, but I wanted to set the stage for, these are the things we're looking for. So as I mentioned, the more the city grows, the more time it takes from staff to do all the tasks that we do. If we can implement things like this and have less time for our staff, we can decrease the need to add additional staff.
Just with that, I guess doing rough maths, Nick, you'd said 2 hours per cycle, so that's 2 hours per every 2 weeks, up to 6 or 8 hours on, so just call it 4 hours per 2 weeks if on average. So if you have that, 26 times a year, that's, what is that, or 24 times a year, 96 hours.
Yeah, that number's
Rough.
not including the department head too. That's
Okay.
truly just the assistant finance director's time of implementing and back and forth there too. But yeah, you're on the right track there. 26 times that 4 hours a period's just the amount of time the assistant finance director's spending on that.
Okay, so around 100 hours just on that. Okay, and then on the department heads, I mean, we could have this conversation later too. Now it's piqued my interest.
Yeah.
Would you say an hour per week? I mean, just, maybe it's hard to guess, but I don't want to.
Yeah, that's probably a better Josh or Travis or Keith question since they're the ones
So
that
on
are
the
dealing with more
payroll day,
complicated
it
stuff.
takes me, right away when I get in, and I try to get my stuff to Pam by 9. So the first thing I do when I get there is start working on everybody's timesheets and making sure it jives with their punches. And I'm usually there 9:30,
What time do you start?
7 a.m.
Okay. Keith, would you have any guess on that? You have a few more employees, so.
Yeah, for me, the time part, it's hard to measure it because I'm kind of waiting for staff to come in at some
I
points
see.
to get it turned in. But typically, once I get everything, it's maybe half an hour, 40 minutes to review it, put it all together, send it off to Pam. And then she'll, review it, and if there's any errors or any questions, then we address that. So maybe half an hour to an hour.
Okay. Chief, would you have any guess on that?
I would estimate that we're about, between myself and Lieutenant, about an hour.
Okay. So with the estimates, we're at about 108 hours. And at, $5,000 per year plus a $3,900 implementation, rough math, you're looking, for the first year, we would have to be paying around $80 an hour for that staff time. For every year after that, it would be around $45 an hour per staff time to offset the cost of this.
And the hours they gave is per pay period, so you multiply that by
Oh,
26?
yep, you're right. You're right, good catch.
Yeah, so with
Yeah.
that in total, we're probably up close to about 200 hours of staff time.
okay.
For that. And then along with this, what we didn't really touch on too is for leave requests and other HR-related documents, that will also get digitized.
Okay,
And will allow for automated updates in our payroll system too. Currently, that stuff would go through HR and then have to be rerouted through payroll to get updates for any sort of changes in address or names or beneficiaries, emergency contacts, all of that stuff. So with the new system in place, that would also not need to be sheets that are passed around or emails that are exchanged. Instead, it would be information that was submitted by the employee saying, here's my updates, and then would auto update into Excel too. So there's some cost savings there. Probably a little harder to put a number on that because
Sure.
year to year that changes quite a bit, how much we'd have in changes, but that's another benefit of switching to this software too, is that that's all in one place versus right now it's kind of all split up versus what gets to HR, what gets communicated back to payroll, and kind of where all those records are kept too.
okay. Do you feel like, as sort of a check and balance, that will be adequate using the digital software versus having to handle the sheet and actually you're kind of more forced to look at it when it's in front of you on a piece of paper or whatever? Do you feel like the digital will be as safe as far as?
I think so. I think it'll be good for the department heads too to have those timesheets and the time punches all in the same place versus kind of having that information in different systems versus on paper versus your time punch system, all that. I think it'll be easier to reference for it all being in one place and for them to just be able to go back and reference old periods is going to be easier if it's all just in one spot versus when you have printed timesheets, you just are kind of going back and requesting, hey, can I get copies of those old ones? Because if you only have the on-paper copies, then you don't have your originals laying around anymore once you turn those in too.
And
Okay.
online digital is, or not online, but digital is how we do all of our checks and cutting checks, and
Mm-hmm.
department heads review those that way. So if that's secure enough, this is gonna be just as secure, because they
Okay.
still have to give approval for the leave requests and such. It just will then be through a system digitally that's tracked versus on paper.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for answering all those questions. Anybody else have questions about that? I mean, we have an hour and 35 minutes before the next meeting, so.
Can
And
you
we
give
can,
m-
we can circle back to this too. We'll be bringing it forward to COW. I just wanted to start piquing the interest of, like, this is what staff spends time on, looking at how we can just make processes more efficient. So I'll keep going through here, but,
Sure, yep.
and then we can circle back on that. I mean,
Okay.
If council said that, I put it on the goal setting as well first, obviously, because if it's something that you're not interested in, technology is not something you want to invest time in, it's good for us to know that. But we can continue the discussion too, towards the end.
Okay, sounds good.
The next goal area is attracting and retaining quality employees. So conduct regular salary surveys to ensure pay and benefits are competitive with other municipalities as well as the private sector. Invest in professional development through training, conferences, and certifications. Foster an environment where employees feel valued. Continue quarterly department employee recognition and trainings. Equip employees with up-to-date technology and resources to do their jobs effectively and not hinder productivity. Emphasize the public service mission and community impact of municipal work. Many employees are drawn to government work because they want to make a difference in their community. Reduce delays in hiring that cause qualified candidates to accept other offers. Support wellness initiatives, employee assistance programs, and create a culture where taking care of oneself is encouraged. And really, this goal area is super important because the cost to have staff turnover and having one staff taking their time away to train over and over and over is a huge burden to the city. So, and attracting qualified candidates, I mean, it's not about the number of applicants you get, it's the quality that you get, and making sure that when people come in here, they can hit the ground running because of their expertise. And we've worked really hard. HR has done a fantastic job of getting people in for interviews really fast and things, so we try not to lose those candidates, because usually we do find when people apply for a job here, they're applying for jobs other places. And so that does happen where our top candidates are, well, I already accepted another job. So we do work really hard to make sure that we're getting out there, but getting the people to get in place as soon as possible. So that's what I have for just some goal areas of what staff works towards and what I encourage our staff to be working on as I lead operations here. And if we wanted to go on to the next item, I have some questions on there to pique some interest and topics of setting goals and objectives for the year. We can definitely go back and revisit those ones that I shared from staff's perspective, but I'll just read them out to the public if that'd be okay on E5. All right, so for discussion topics to guide upcoming goals and priorities for council, what has been the city's biggest successes in the last 3 years? What is the city doing right and what could we do better? What do you want the city of Isani to look like in 5 years? What are your top 3 priorities for the city? How do you see the city continuing to move forward? What changes, if any, do you feel need to be made to council meetings, packets, or agendas, and et cetera? What issues do you feel the city needs to address? And then general comments and discussion on other goals and priorities.
Sounds good. So I guess we'll kick it off. Do you guys want to talk about each one of these items maybe a little bit? What do you guys think has been the city's biggest successes in the last 3 years? I know we've done a lot in the last 3 years, but what do you guys think has been the biggest? I mean, I'm going to start with taxes.
Reducing
Well, it
costs.
has, without a doubt,
Tax rate, reduction in taxes,
compared to surrounding cities, we've held the line very well.
decreased actually. Yeah, I think we're at 22.5% roughly tax rate reduction in the last 3 years. That's pretty good. So I'm really happy with.
It really is amazing. I mean, it's something
Yeah.
to be celebrated.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the work that all of us have done, department heads, city staff, all of us. We've
Yes.
done a good job, I feel like, trying to tackle every little thing, everywhere we could, and still not lose any services. I really haven't seen any more complaints about anything that we've cut. I mean, we really haven't cut anything substantial either, so, the PD's fully staffed, most of our departments are fully staffed, and I think it's been going pretty good the last 3 years. I think public outreach has really improved. I know in the last 3 years especially, we've really made a push to try and get more information out on social media, Facebook. The video live streaming started 3 years ago. We've seen over a 3,000% viewership increase in that, which I think is important because people are more educated on what's happening. You know, police being fully staffed, I think that's a milestone in the last 3 years. That's a big deal for departments, you know, so, I don't know, what else?
I think we've done a great job expanding homeowners' land use rights in
Yep.
certain respects. I think we cleaned up a lot of ordinances that needed to be cleaned up.
We've made the city significantly more business-friendly.
I was just gonna say that. It's
Yes.
significantly more business-friendly, and I think, you know, we're moving in the right direction, and the direction is to get more businesses wanting to locate here, making it easier for them. More developers wanna come in, build some quality developments. I think we're doing a good job. Compared to other cities, I think we're moving along pretty well as far as what you guys have on board. This following years are looking pretty promising. That's what I thought.
You know, we've had apartment buildings built in the last 3 years, and they're somewhat frowned upon by some, but they're pretty much full. And I think that fills a need for you know, it's market rate, but it's still a transitional space for, you know, older folks or younger folks trying to get into a home or out of a home. And I think that's something that we've done really well with 0 of our dollars going into. So that's been great. It's just all market-driven growth. It's efficient, and it saves taxpayers money, so. Steve, what do you like that we've done the last 3 years?
I think the biggest key is staff. The biggest key is the staff retention, you know, trying to keep our workers here. I don't care what anybody says. When you retrain, you bring in new people, it costs a lot of money. You're better off to pay your employees to keep them, because you're gonna end up spending tenfold in 5 years' time what we lose. When we lose a staff member, it's gonna cost us a load of money. Any way you look at it, it's going to cost you money. It's not just that staff, that person coming in, it's the staff that has to take the time to train them, get them up to speed, what they gotta do. Staff retention is huge. I've always been a huge advocate for promoting from within, because that gives everybody a sense of value. If you bring in somebody new to, say, replace Keith, you know, the staff that's working hard, or his assistant manager that steps up when Keith isn't there or whatever, he looks at it like, what am I, chopped liver? You know, I mean, that in itself ruins things. In city, private sector, no matter what. You know, sometimes you have to pay to keep things. But when you do pay that, it comes back, because you're not spending a lot of time retraining. Retraining costs a lot of money. You get somebody that comes in that isn't certified. If you have somebody you need to hire that isn't certified to work in public works, if you're hiring that person knowingly that they don't have that, in that event, and we don't need that certification right away, you can always work them into that. But to replace that person that is certified, it's gonna cost us more money than you think. So, you know, that being said, that's been a huge thing, and I've always been a big advocate of that. When you promote from within, it makes everybody feel that they can move up the ladder.
I think we've done a great job at doing that, and I think in the last 3 years, we've retained employees. I think we probably have a better average than most surrounding cities. I mean, off the top of my head, I can only think of 1 or 2 that have moved on in the last 3 years. I'm sure there were more, because there's a lot in the background that I don't know.
Well, liquor
about.
store has a lot of
Liquor
turnover,
store.
and that's,
Well, you're gonna have that
It's the
in
nature of
retail,
the
though.
part-time,
I
it's the
don't think
nature.
you don't probably have higher rates than what normal retail has.
No, the turnover that we see over there is mostly part-timers. For example,
Sure.
the gal that just left, she got a promotion at her full-time job and had been with us for 6 years, was sad to go, but excited to only have to work 1 job now.
Yep, and that's on the consent agenda tonight, yep.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying is, you know, liquor store has a turnover, but it's mainly the part-time help. And, you know, you think of Walmart. Walmart does not have many full-time employees. And the reason is they keep that number down, the full-time employees, because then they don't have to offer benefits and everything else. But you have 200 employees when you probably, if you had full-time employees, you would only need 150. So it does, you know, you'd have to really sit down and crunch the numbers, but I'm just saying that is part-time help is always gonna turn, no matter where you're at. You know, we did lose, you know, an officer here a few years ago. He went to North Branch because they threw an assload of money at him. And you can't belittle that person for that, but we also have to be competitive to keep that from happening.
What year was that? It must have been 2021, 2022? I don't remember that when I've been on council. Okay,
But that was, you know, and it took us a while to get another officer,
Yep.
and unfortunately, younger people aren't going into that. Unfortunately, what I do for a living, younger people aren't going in for that. You know, so it's, you know, even auto body mechanics, auto body guys, mechanics. Their younger people aren't getting into that because they don't, I don't know if it's, they don't like getting dirty or, or, you know, they think everything's greener on the other side of the fence is gonna make their life easier. You know, when electronics was all a big deal, everybody was going into computer science and computers and all this. And those people are searching for jobs. I've seen it. I've seen them come in and say, hey, you know, I'd like to get into something I can sink my teeth into. But, you know, they already invested all this money into doing that. So employee retention has always been huge, and I've always been a huge advocate for it, so.
sure.
You know,
Illuminate Isani, that's been a big success of this year. So I think that's been a success in the last 3 years. The way we've tried to reorganize that multiple times, you know, there was a lot of sunk costs in 2022 when it was started, you know, over $100,000. So we tried, you know, since then, with what we had to try and do alternate methods, and I think this year there's finally a method that's sustainable. So I'm excited about that success. What do you got, Nick? What do you think that has been done well? I mean, you've been on a year and a month, a year roughly?
Yeah, year and a month.
Yep. What do you think's gone well or successes in the last 3 years?
I mean, as far as what I want from the city government, it's mostly to be left alone and not cost me an arm and a leg, and at reducing the costs, I've been thankful for that you guys have taken on for a while now. I didn't notice any kind of shortage of services or change to how I perceived it from the outside. The road projects seem to have gone off efficiently, and there's been some minor nuances that didn't go great, but as far as the costs that they ended up at, and the water project, yeah, cutting out $500,000 out of that was cool to see.
Good job, Jason.
I mean, like, I don't want it to do a whole lot, I just don't want it to cost.
Of course.
So, yeah, transparency, putting out the stuff to Facebook and trying to get people, if people aren't aware of what's going on, it's because they don't want to know. I mean, it's easy to get to the information and to get it from the horse's mouth. It's out there, and so transparency, accountability, financial stewardship have all been really good over the last few years.
Sure. And I do have another recent success to share. As of last night, I submitted my first article to the paper for a standing column. So that'll be in the newspaper. I'll be working on that hopefully every month or so. So that's a big success for us. And if you guys have any ideas on what I should write about, the first one's on Illuminate Isani. So hopefully you see that tomorrow.
I have two more that came to mind.
Okay.
I've heard nothing but great things about the sledding hill. That's not huge cost, but huge appreciation from the community for that amenity. And then every time I go to the archery range, it's not as used as I thought it would be, but I've heard a lot of positive things about that, and also using unused land at very low cost outside of the target covers being more than what we had expected. But
Yeah, and that archery range was 3 years ago too, so it's been within the last 3 years. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a good start for something. I could talk about stuff that's maybe not as known or things like that. I'm trying to keep it more informational and positive.
the new playground, trying to do that
ADA
in-house and make
playground.
a wood-based one
Oh,
rather
yep.
than metal is kind of good outside the box thinking and trying to reduce costs, but also mix things up.
Well, there's a whole article right there. Good thinking. If anybody else thinks of anything else, I'm open to ideas for that. I think that'll be awesome.
Just to expand on that one, the Bluebird Park project with being ADA accessible and that, we're hoping that'll be more of a regional draw, which is very exciting for the community and beyond.
Any other successes you guys want to talk about from the last 3 years? Otherwise, we could move on to. I think it's been awesome, working with a good group of people. I'm very happy with the city staff, being a city council and now in this seat. I think it's been great all around, so. All right, so that is question one there. So what is the city doing right? I think we covered most of that. Now, what could we do better? The harder question. Pin drop.
Can always do something.
Right. It's hard to answer that question because I feel like we just think about these ideas when they come to us. Like now we have this the software digitizing. Like okay, that never crossed our mind, so you don't think about it until you think about it. So I think that's maybe a little harder. Steve, you got anything that you think we could do better?
There's always certain little things,
Right.
you know, I was thinking about this, and it's stupid, but it is something that drives me nuts. I cannot stand when I blow my driveway clean and the city comes through and I gotta spend days. I'm getting too old to shovel that crap.
Every time it snows, I hear that from
Yep.
somebody.
You know,
I
it's.
just got done.
But,
Every
you know,
time it's-
I've seen I actually seen a video from in Alaska, but, you know, there you gotta remember, I mean, if they were to do the same thing that they do, they drop the wing and they pull it back, they'd be going like this constantly, all day, you know, with all these driveways, and it's not even feasible. But it's just one of those things. I had to go out at Christmas with my chipping hammer and chip out the ice from the end of my driveway because the shit froze there. And I couldn't get it out of there, so it was like driving over a mountain to get in my driveway.
You know how to avoid that? You can actually clear out an area so that the snow that's
I
on the
do-
blade
I
has
do
somewhere
that.
to go,
I
so
do
it
that,
doesn't end
but
up
it
in your
still
driveway.
gets there.
Sure, yeah. But
You
that
know.
helps. I'm telling people that all the time.
I do it and it still gets there because they're pulling it from all the way down the street. So that short area that I would clean doesn't catch it all. And I don't know what the right answer is. You know, I thought maybe sometime they could go in and, if they're running around the skid loader, try to clean out some of that. But then again, it's taking more of their time. It
Now-
is just a frustration.
Yeah.
And let's face it, there is a lot of elderly people in this town. I just can't physically go and do it like that anymore. You know, I'm not 20 years old anymore. I mean.
Got to get some of them next door neighbor kids
To
working.
build more
Yeah.
apartment buildings, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand, it's physically impossible, but that is one thing that drives me
Okay.
crazy, and, you know, maybe he can come up with an idea in the future. I just know it's not an easy solution.
See, I thought it was because the snowbanks get so high, they can't push the snow over them, so they wait for everybody to shovel the driveway, so when they go down, it has a place to go.
I know they make that a wing thing that will drop in the driveway, but it would take our plow event and triple it probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I mean. If it was a stretch between driveways, it probably wouldn't be so bad, but when you got a driveway every, 300 feet, he's gonna be sitting there going like this, and it's just gonna drag it on and on and on. I mean,
What if we were to consider that idea, but we have people sign up and they have to pay for that service? like we have a sign-up list, like maybe elderly folks, hey, this is gonna be an extra $20 or extra $10 or whatever, every snow event. We drop that blade there and we keep the end of your driveway a little bit cleaner. I mean, I'm sure that'd be an administrative nightmare.
It would be hard.
It'd be like the garbage man
track.
having a route,
Yeah.
right? Okay, maybe just something to consider, I don't know. Is there GPS in those trucks?
We don't have GPS.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah,
it would be a nightmare there, then it'd be a nightmare
Sure.
here, and it's just,
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
it
can't
wouldn't
see
work.
it
It just, it's, you know, it's unfortunately, that's what we have. That's-
I don't think there's any other solution.
No. Otherwise,
I
I
mean,
think,
you could
Radiant
pay
and ground
someone
heat.
to do your driveway.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
want
sounds
them
like it's a
messing with
great
the end of my
business
driveway.
opportunity for someone.
Get them neighbor kids shoveling, yeah. All right, what else do you think we're short on? Admittedly, I started off a little rough on Facebook last year, so that's definitely something I'm working on. So that's a shortcoming that I've had.
Off the top of my head, like, I've liked the direction with the illuminated standee. I'd like to see more of it being absorbed by them, but maybe applying that to other things. Like, I don't know if there's other events that could be including volunteer help, drive down the amount
Yes.
of staff time needed towards those, like the Splish Splash, Summer Bash, or the street dances. There's way to incorporate volunteer groups into those organizations as well, or events.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. And that was kind of the hope, I think, when I really pushed, or we really pushed for that volunteer group, I really hoped it would start something, and I love the fact that they named it iSandy Together, because it doesn't limit it to just that. So maybe that is something in the future. I mean, maybe they could have different divisions of that or something that do different things. I don't know. That's something, you know, if the community wants more of stuff, I think we just gotta make it abhorrently clear that if something has to go because of cost, then the community has to step up in its place if they want it to happen. Like, that's what community is. We're not, you know, blanket taxing is easy. Making things, you know, accessible for people and getting the community involved is difficult. So I think that's a good point to continue pushing on that path too. So if anybody's got any ideas. What else do you think, George? Do you think of any, what else can we improve? Or city staff? Let's hear it straight.
I think, when you talk about that, I think what she's talking about with the payroll and digitizing that,
Right.
that, yes, there's a big dollar amount. But none of that pays for itself right away. But I think in longevity, easier tracking, I think a lot of those things pays for itself in that efficiency time. You know, you think about it, they spend X amount of hours doing it, that's an hour from something they can't be doing somewhere else. I always look at something, if it takes you only an hour to do something, just for example, and I apologize, but this is the best way I can make an analogy of it. It's just like if I'm on a job, and I got 2 hours work left, and I'm done at 8 hours. Well, it's a 2-hour drive for me to get there. Would I be better off spending 2 hours to finish it than going back, driving back down there, 2 hours to do it? You know, it takes a couple hours to unload and load your tools at the end of the day. And you think about it, it's more efficient for me to just work that 2 extra hours, be done with it, and I'm not losing 2 hours or 4 hours. 2 hours the next day equates to 4. So it doubles that, because now I had that day, 2 hours of that day, I've spent 2 hours where I couldn't be doing something else. So you gotta look at it that way, because it takes you that much. Now you lost that hours of other productivity that you could be doing. Now that other hour just turned into 2 more hours. Because now that delays the next part, their job, the next part of their job, the next part of their job. It just runs downstream. So yes, you spend some money here, but it will pay for itself sooner than later.
Anything else you guys think we could approve? Sorry, go ahead.
Are we gonna talk about that?
We'll get to all that.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd like an example exactly how it works.
Let's
The software, because we're.
Let's talk about that at the end, if we have
Okay.
time. Yeah, try and get through this, so then, because we have it on a cow agenda, so we could talk about them, but hopefully we can get through this before and talk about it. So let's move on. What do you want the city of Iceni to look like in 5 years? Similar to what it is, more
Recognizable.
business growth. What'd you say?
Recognizable.
Recognizable, that's a good one, yeah. I don't have any huge goals I don't think it's a huge goal to make it grow not on its own, so market growth, what happens, happens. Try and I would like to see, continued business growth. I think that's somewhere that we greatly excel. I had a meeting with 2 business owners yesterday, and they had talked to me about how much more friendly our staff was and our council was and our policy was, and they night and day chose us over a city to the north and another city. So I think, if we continue on that path in the next 5 years, that'll do nothing but help our community and help continue to grow businesses and reduce taxes. That's what I look for. I hope we don't have a huge development of 500 houses or something crazy. I just think this community likes, what we have, but obviously it's gonna grow at some rate, so.
Question on that similar project south of me there. Is that in the city? So where that line end, where that property end, that's the end of the city limit?
I mean, theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, yeah, you like
It's,
that?
it's the property border, but if the adjoining property owner requested, to annex in on their own or a developer purchased it.
The reason I say that, because we are running out of areas for developments.
There's quite a bit still, yeah.
I would say, because we're not landlocked by another city specifically on all sides, we have a lot of room to grow. So
We have room to grow, but that, right now, a lot of that property is in the tier 1, which,
Yep.
I'll be honest with you, as many years as I've been up here, I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. Because now you're telling somebody that doesn't live in the city, they can't do anything unless the city says you can. So, there again, you force in the word annexation on things, and I don't like that word.
Never
force.
use the
Well,
word forced annexation with this
I
group.
would say,
No, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, no.
I've never have. And
not forced, but requested annexation.
Yeah.
And
they can request it.
Yeah,
Right.
They can request it, but that's why that tier 1 drives me nuts. Because we're telling them people, you can't do what you want because even though you're not in the city limits, we're gonna regulate you. That is, you got a call from,
I've got 2 calls this week. One
Yeah.
was against the tier 1 and one loved the tier 1 because they want to develop the property. So it's kind of a horse apiece.
well, the one has tier 1,
Yeah.
and he went to the county, and the county says, we'd love to let you do it, but it's in a tier 1, you have to go to the city.
Yep, and he was told, and I talked to him, and I told him to come in and ask us for what he wants.
Yeah,
We're
I
pretty-
told him that.
yeah.
I told him that.
Yep.
And I said, I told him to go and talk to Stephanie,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gonna, prime example, Bruce Jurgens had his property, his flippin' field from his building to his house, which is in the city, but it's tier 1, he had built a roadway so he can just drive from his shop to his house or his house to his shop without having to come out on the road. Nobody's asking him, telling him that the city has to maintain it, he's gonna do it all on his own. To me, I thought that was stupid. That should have came in front of us to discuss before it was told no. And that's what I told the gentleman, I'm not. I
That
don't
had
wanna
been,
speak-
that was probably years ago.
Yeah, it was, I can't remember what her name was.
If you know me well, I don't believe in my job being the authority to tell people no. So as a zoning administrator, my job is to direct them to statute and our ordinance and show them their options for how it can fit or what their next steps need to be
Yep.
to make it work.
Yeah,
So-
and I told that gentleman to get a hold of you, and then it has to be put on the agenda and be discussed. And,
Same.
so, I mean, if we say no, that's a different story. She should never be, for her, she could just, like she said, state statute, this is that, but we, as a council up here, we can make those decisions based wholeheartedly. Just like the guy on Broadway when he wanted to build that garage. What irritated me in the fact was, he was told no to come in front of the council, and he still did it anyway. And at that point, that was wrong, and that was my stance on it. If he would've came in here before he started anything, we could've had a conversation and worked that out. But instead, he did it and saying, screw you, we're gonna do it anyway. I don't like that.
Yeah, that was during COVID, and he came on to City Hall and nobody be here because everything was locked down. So it's like, yeah, I get that, but we were able to change that ordinance.
I know,
So
but what
people
I-
are flexible and.
But my
Yeah.
point was, I also know somebody, and for a fact, he says, I don't care what the city says, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And that didn't sit well with me.
So
All
in-
you have to do is have him come in and have a conversation.
I think staff is doing an okay job. I think if it makes sense, if a person has a larger piece of property and wants to do something that's unconventional, but not within ordinance, but should
realistic.
probably be allowed, direct them to us. At least we can take a second look at it
Just
instead
like-
of,
I don't want to make that decision by myself.
I don't know.
Well, just like this one, he wants to develop it. So there's a whole good chance it will get annexed in at some point. So,
We'll have that discussion when it comes. But as far as the next 5 years, I mean, I don't think,
Yeah.
we're not trying to sprawl, we're not trying to become a
No.
metropolis. Just kind of going with what the people want and what comes, and that's that.
I think growth should be organic, and if somebody wants in the city, let them in, and the city shouldn't be, unless it's absolutely, there's only a few circumstances I can think of, let private property be private property, you know, and
All right, so with that, what are your top 3 priorities for the city? I mean, we've already talked about taxes. Look at Josie. Taxes, you already know that. You can write that 3 times. Or 4. Property rights. I don't know. Such a broad question.
You know, Steve mentioned, it might have been Steve, somebody on this council in the last 10 years said something. I don't know if it's feasible or if it can even be worked in over like a decade or if it has to be done all at once, but assessments, road assessments or assessments, you were saying somebody said it should just be paid through the general fund, but I don't think it should be done with new property. I think new property should be, you know, if somebody's gonna develop property, they should pay for the infrastructure and any
they
assessment.
usually do, they do.
Right. But existing property that's already done it, like for road improvements and things like that, right now we assess. I don't know what the formula would be to maybe change that, because everybody in the city at one time or another is gonna get assessed for a road. So is there a way to, over a
That's-
There's a-
period
there's
of
a-
time
So
to,
one thing I wanna tell you.
you already looked at it?
No, long before, I mean, we're talking 10 years. We had pavement management plan. There was funds in there. A certain person used that to cut taxes. That money went away. If that money still would have been in there today, that pavement management plan would have covered all of those costs without assessing taxes. That's why it's imperative that we get back to getting that fund built up. God bless his heart and rest in peace, Mike Becker even said the same thing, is by keeping that money going into pavement management, you will be able to do these projects without all those assessments.
I haven't heard that argument or how it would work, but I'd be interested in listening to that.
But that's why the money has to be put into pavement management. And Jason's doing an outstanding job by going out and getting to these roads that need mill and overlay or seal coating. That kind of stuff prolongs those streets quite a bit. You take, where is that? Towns Edge Road. That thing probably should have been gone over quite some time ago, but now it's gotten to the point, it's too late. So when you do those things, and you do that mill and overlay, costs are way down, Longevity is longer. Preventive maintenance, preventive maintenance, preventive maintenance. And that's what the pavement management plan is supposed to do.
Is that something you can put together, Jason? Would you have a lot of time into putting something together if we made that a goal?
So, I mean, it's totally worth looking at. The city of Elk River specifically, changed to a franchise fee where everybody just gets billed something like $5 a month on their monthly bills and eliminated assessments. You know, you gotta kinda do a study to figure out what that number needs to be, and there's a whole process to go about it, but it is a thing you can change. And obviously, the last person that got assessed.
You're gonna be pissed.
is gonna be pissed.
I hate the idea. I'm not gonna lie to you. Going away from the assessment, that's been our policy for a long time, and when you buy a home, you know, or your realtor should tell you, hey, this road was assessed 3 years ago, you shouldn't expect to have a road. A good realtor will tell you if you should expect assessments. So when you buy a home, that's just typical practice. And if we end up switching away from that, the people last year, year before, anybody that's ever paid an assessment is gonna be pissed, because now they're gonna have to pay more on their taxes again on top of the assessment. I don't know that there's a way that you can ever implement that would actually work. And it's not really, I don't think it's really fair to tax everybody if their road's already been done.
But here's a way to look at this though
Yeah.
also. How many streets do you drive on that you've never paid an assessment?
Right. We all pay taxes, though.
We pay
Still.
taxes, but that isn't what that's totally intended for. But it's like County Road 5 out here. How many people drive down that road do not live in the city of Isani?
But we pay taxes on that for the county. They don't assess for that road, so we all pay taxes
But I'm
already.
just using that as an example. You look at how many people drive down these streets that do not live there, do not pay those assessments. It's just like I go down South Passage and then down Townsend Road out. But the people that live on there are paying that, but I'm also using as much, if not more, I shouldn't say more, but just as much as they do. It's kind of unfair to them and a blessing for me, but I'm still using it. We're not collecting tax on the gas in town, the county is. And that would be another legitimate nightmare to try to get tax dollars at our pumps here to come towards us than to the county. So I'm not against that idea, but I don't think it's something that you can just say, okay, next week we're going to this. I think it's something maybe we should look into, maybe start building that to that. And then 5 years down the road or whatever, maybe we can start implicating it. I mean, I'm not against that idea. I think it's fair to the people that live on that street or road that other people use.
Well, we would still need the ability to assess in certain circumstances. I mean, we have a bunch of ordinances on the.
And that's
books
where it
that-
goes
that-
astray. You tax them
Right.
and then you assess them on top of it again. You're just
Right,
adding
I
another
know.
avenue for the government to take money from the people. You know, if we add this franchise fee and say it's $5 a month, and then another council says, oh, we're gonna bring our assessment policy back again. So now these people are paying the $5 a month and then getting assessed as well. Like I think it's opening a can of worms, potentially,
think
but
you're-
it'd be
I think
interesting to
you're
see.
right.
But I'll be honest with you, if we did that, they would be totally nuts in the head to say, no, let's go back to assessing. I mean, seriously.
I know.
I mean, you'd have to be so far out in right field or center field or whatever field you wanna call it. You know,
Still have to have the power to assess, and there's certain circumstances where you
yes.
just have to.
But I think we should not shoot the idea down.
Sure.
I think we should look at it and look at it as a potential to see what we can do with it.
Nick, what are your thoughts on that idea? You think there's some promise there, potential?
I think it's a tragedy of the commons, and a lot of people would have issue with that they are gonna get double billed versus other people are single billed, and how you make that equitable and fair is quite a mess, and
That's why I said, would it take a
the,
decade to
the
do?
whole concept of like, what's your actual damage to the roads, and which roads are you traveling on versus what are your actual costs, man, it's all a convoluted nightmare.
And that's another question I had. Most of the highly traveled roads in the city are state aid routes, which, I mean, I would say that if you live in a neighborhood, I mean, depending where you live in a neighborhood, 80% of your travel to your house is probably gonna be a state aid route, a county road, or a highway. And then you're gonna have the last, little bit in your neighborhood. Would you say that's probably accurate, that most of the major roads here are not assessed and they're paid for by state aid or the county or the state?
I guess specifically to answer that, we assess everybody equally. So any street, whether it's a state aid route or not, is assessed.
Sure.
So that it isn't dependent on where you are, it's, everybody in the end would get their fair share of their
Okay.
street. So, I mean, we don't assess for county roads and state roads, but the state aid routes, we still assess
So
equally.
that's
So
what I was
any
thinking,
city
Whiskey
street-
Road, we didn't assess. Or did we
Well,
assess
we
that
haven't
one?
assessed mill and overlay or seal coats. We don't assess
Okay.
the maintenance.
Okay,
And what we're trying to do, that maintenance is trying to prolong the need to actually do a full reconstruction or a reclaim project where we would need to assess, which is what our assessment policy is. But then once that road gets to that point, if it's a city street, we're assessing it consistently to everybody. And that's how we're trying to keep it uniform on, no matter where you are. Regarding the cost and the distribution, I think we might have a gap kind of coming up in a couple of years where we don't have many projects like you saw that maybe would require assessments, and maybe that's the gap where we have a time where there aren't any for a while, or, or something along those lines, or our projects don't time out that way, and then if we start doing that, a franchise fee or a different way to go about that, maybe there'd be at least a leg before somebody just got hit with an assessment and then starts paying a franchise fee. But I believe there's another city that tried this and did it for like 1 year and decided to go back. And that
Okay.
really got a lot of people fired up.
do you know what city that is? Or could you find out?
Okay,
Huh?
yeah, I'll dig that up.
Let me know, and I could reach out and find out why, I'd just be curious. Just-
So, that's at least something we can look at, but otherwise,
So the mill and overlays are paid for by general taxpayer money already?
yep, our maintenance.
So if we never get behind on the mill and overlay, theoretically, you'd never have to assess somebody, hopefully.
No, our maintenance is good, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
You're always gonna have to reconstruct a road eventually, like, the condition of the road, we have our program to try and mill and overlay even 2 rounds on a road, which, we're still, pretty much you're never really gonna get away from, 60, 80 years out,
Oh, yeah,
the road's
obviously.
gonna need to be done. Well, no matter how long it is.
Okay, sure.
Once that cycle starts, everybody's getting hit once, it's just whether we're getting it to be every 30 years or 100 years or 50 years, we're trying to get the life out of it, but essentially, the cycle continues, and we're trying to do what we can to get the life out of it that we can and spread those assessments as far apart as we can to get the value out of them. But it's gonna happen, sometime, and it just comes down to that topic of switching to a franchise fee, and the last guy that got assessed is mad, but the first person that got it is the happiest person he ever met. And from there on in, as a resident of a city that has it, when they do your street, and do your residents come and ask, well, am I getting assessed for this? And it's like, well, it's part of your franchise fee. No, we don't have to go through the assessment process. We don't have to, they're more than happy to, the general feel is a lot less contentious when you're doing projects, once you're not doing assessments and having those direct meetings and the hearings and everything that goes with it. And so once it's rolling, I've seen it as a pretty smooth, general, public feel. And when you establish the amount, to base it on that uniform, how much we were going to need, to cover what would have been assessed amount, well, essentially, It's just distributing that same dollar amount you would've gotten hit with when we did your street in a smaller increment over a lot longer time. And that's the change, but it, you know, it really does eliminate a lot of that contentious element of assessed projects.
Okay.
And I will just clarify, the city does currently collect franchise fees on electric and gas bills.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's something to consider, maybe. We could set that as a discussion item at some point, maybe, further, or,
Yeah, just, didn't mean to open a can of worms, I'm just curious how it
interesting.
worked.
yeah. All right. Let's see. The next topic on there. Top 3 priorities, sorry, we're still on that, I guess, taxes, long-term planning, that's, I mean, that would fit in that envelope. Revenue stream. We've cut enough, I don't know what more we can really cut, we need to figure out ways to get more revenue. Somehow, some way, whether it's grants, whether maybe the state cleans up some of their misspending and we can maybe get more LGA, who knows? Maybe it's hopeful thinking, but the liquor store, I know we've talked about that sign a lot. We've talked about the THC stuff, which we'll talk about again tonight. Just another source of revenue, because I don't know what else we can cut. Like, we've pretty much cleaned up 99% of anything we could, I feel like. Anything else that you guys think are, you know, top 3 priorities for the city?
I think we're right on track.
Okay. All right, how do you see the city continuing to move forward? I think that's kind of the same coin, yeah. What changes, if any, do you feel need to be made to council meetings, packets, agendas, et cetera?
I think we made a lot of changes over the years.
have.
I mean, one of the things that were dear to me was, in the old days, if you were a member of the public and you wanted to come up and talk about something that was in that evening's agenda, you weren't allowed to.
Yep,
And I think the public should be allowed to come up and influence council members, or maybe show us a way to see something different that's on the agenda that we may not actually be thinking ourselves. And I think the public should have the right to maybe influence our decision as far as what's on packets. And we've been getting packets earlier.
Yep.
I've asked
Thank you.
for that, and we've been getting mailed to us a couple days earlier, and sometimes that really helps, especially if I have a really busy weekend.
anybody else see anything with,
I like how we made them all available to the public.
yep,
Before, you had to be on an email list. Now you just click a link and you have a packet, which is great. I mean, over the years, what the city has done to be a lot more transparent is phenomenal. And
it is night and day.
very well received by a lot of people.
And I do want to say thank you to council for allowing staff to be able to move forward with some of these things. Some of these were goals that we had for years, and it really is nice. It really is hard to quantify the number of time it takes us. I mean, back in the old day, when you're putting together PDF packets by hand and scanning and printing, and I mean, we really have come a long way, and staff is very thankful that we're able to get those processes improved.
Nice.
Good. Yeah, a lot of stuff has changed, especially in the last 7-8 years. It's been a night and day difference for residents. I remember coming in here as a resident 7-8 years ago, and it's just it was totally different. Yep,
It
you and I
wasn't-
were both on the other side of that back
Completely
then.
different city.
Yep.
Really, really was. Can staff think of anything different that
I have
you think
one
could do?
idea.
Go for it.
On the previous site, there was the ability to have iCal subscription or other calendar subscriptions. I don't know if that's the feature the new site can have, but that would be something,
Is that the RSS,
not RSS, no.
not RSS?
So it automatically upload to your calendar, or?
So like, you could go on to it, like council meetings, and you could subscribe to the calendar, and it would populate, anytime there was an event added to that, it would show up on your tablet or phone or computer.
Did you use that as a resident or just a council member?
Resident?
Oh, interesting. I never heard about that before. It's kind
Yeah,
of cool.
it was like add to iCal was on the thing, and then you could subscribe to a calendar and.
We haven't gotten that far yet, but there are abilities to be able to get notifications, we know for, when packets are being added, as well as maybe even some texting. So we haven't got that finalized yet, but that is in the works. But we'll definitely add that to the list and look into it. to iCal.
Sure. Yeah, I know a lot of sports teams do that, and that's very handy. Like if you got Twins baseball and it automatically imports 162 games or whatever to your calendar, it's like, that's kind of nice. Don't have to do it manually. That's a good idea. I didn't know that was available before.
It was on the previous one, yeah.
Sure. So how about staff with the council meetings, packets, and agendas, other than how long the meetings are?
It could be shorter, I'm sure.
I mean, from staff's perspective, I mean, I think it's going really good. I'm thankful to all the department heads who get me their items, or Jade and I are their items earlier. It really does help for the review process, as well as getting it to council earlier. And it's crazy how those deadlines sneak up every other week, but, no, I think things are going good. We did on the committee, the whole agenda, get rid of the categories of new business, old business, and no one mentioned that they were upset that they went away, but it really was difficult to state if it was a new or coming back, returning business item for the cow agenda, so all items are important. I think it's just important that we talk about all of them, and it helps to get rid of the two different categories, so then we can prioritize if we have a member of the public coming, we can put them at the top, even if it was a returning item, so staff did make that change. But otherwise, we feel like things are going well. We're really excited to get this website up and going. We are required with statute to have a .gov website address, so that's in the works, as well as we'll be updating all of our emails and things, so that'll be coming over time. So we have implemented a lot more accessibility standards to our new website, so that's great, getting wider public abilities to be able to view our content. So no, I mean, honestly, I don't think staff we kind of bring it forward, and we're thankful that we can bring things forward as we see them need to be done.
Okay.
I think in call it should get back to what it was intended for. And that was to have liquor store come in one call meeting or once every couple months. Public Works, same thing. PD, same thing. That is what call was intended for. So that every councilman, because otherwise, we used to have a council member that went to their meetings, which was during the day, so it was hard for council members to get in there. And when they would come in and do their update, we all heard it at once. It didn't come from me to you, to you, to you. And if you add other call items on call, as time allows, we can discuss those things. I think the first priority should be that's what call meant, committee of the whole, which was liquor store committee, public works committee, PD committee. That's what it was intended for. Always was that way.
Yeah, I really like that idea a
Because
lot.
that's what it was intended for, and I have brought it up numerous times. I have no problem with having these other discussions. But if as time allows, we discuss the other items. But they should have first priority to have that discussion with us. Keith comes in and says, the last 2 months we did XXX, we did boom, boom, the same thing with Public Works, same with PD, so we all got that information at once. That's what call meant. I have no problem adding some of these other items, but I still think we need to keep to our agenda in time frame. Getting out of here at 11 o'clock at night.
That doesn't happen. 11.
It has happened many times.
11's never happened.
Yeah, it happens many times.
Not 11.
But 10:30, after 10,
It's been pretty good lately. I feel like.
it has been good
Yeah.
lately, but I'm just saying if,
We had serious ground to make up. There was a lot of fumbled passes and stuff.
I'm not gonna
for years.
blame, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna blame, we're done blaming.
Yep,
That's
yep.
done. That's water under the bridge. But to keep this moving smoothly and keep everything in a personal time frame. Now we're gonna get, we should be knowing what these departments are doing, if there's some changes that need to be done. That's what I think, that is what COW was intended for. Because we used to go to each one of these different committees. And there was only one council member present. So how I interpret something or how I understood something doesn't mean that's how you understand it.
Sure.
And then when I give that information to you, I'm giving it to you the way I understood it, and it may not be necessarily correct.
But that's kind of the way we do committee of a whole, because if Keith has something that we add, if he wants it added, he has his time to talk. If Josh has something he wants added, he has his time to talk. That's kind
I haven't seen it the way it was intended.
Do you think it
Okay.
would be more productive if we did this? I'm not sure. So every COW meeting, like the first one, Keith would spend the first part of that meeting giving us an update. And so it'd be a quarterly update from each department. Public Works would be the following month, PD would be the following month, and maybe get a more in-depth of what they're actually doing and what they're involved in. something
That's what
like
they
that.
did
And
originally.
then
We started,
the
when
rest
COW
of-
started, we did that on quarterly updates. I gave a police department update one month, the next month, somebody else gave their update, the next month, somebody else gave their updates.
Yeah, and then
So that
we-
was done when we started COW.
So then we use the rest of that time that they don't use for a regular COW, and then I think we might be able to get more in depth of what each department is doing. They might be able, if they're putting a presentation on instead of just doing asks, it's just an idea.
Does that add more,
like it.
does that add more workload to staff versus being here just to answer questions? Or, I mean, we talk about public works, we talk about police, we talk about liquor, we talk about all this stuff, and I think it's really awesome that we have an open forum board where our staff feels like they don't have to go through the time of presenting, but they know that we're here to listen. I like the way we do it, but,
Okay,
But what
yeah.
we're doing now with COW is a workshop.
yeah,
That's what that's called. It's not called COW. That's called workshop.
okay.
Like I said, originally, and just like Chief Meyer said, that's what COW originally was set up for. I think Paul was on police, so Paul would go once a month to your meeting. So that was another, so when we did that, we put everybody in that.
Sure.
So we didn't have separate things. Unfortunately, the only thing that we don't do, I mean, because it's not like the fire department. That's why we have that separate going to the fire department, because that's when they have their meetings. So with that being said, so if Josh didn't need to be at this COW meeting, he wouldn't have to show up. Sometimes he has to show up because he doesn't know what's gonna happen. So it limits them to the time that they're here. It gets us all the information that we need to know. They can give us the update. Keith can say, we're doing this, this, and that. I would like to do this. We can solve that there at that time.
Keith, did you have anything to add? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say that we do put a lot of that information in the admin updates that Josie sends out, but it doesn't allow for the back and forth, for questions and stuff. But, we do spend some time sending her updates every Thursday by noon so that she can put together information for you guys. But, I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do, but I just want to point out that we do try to, I can speak for myself, try to keep you updated on what's going on, and
Yep.
I'm always available to answer any questions or concerns that you have as well.
But
I
a
think
lot of those
everybody-
pre-meetings, those other meetings, subcommittees, was before Keith's time.
so do you
Yeah,
know what?
To piggyback on that, I do think that it's beneficial to council to get updates weekly versus quarterly.
Amen.
Obviously, I was involved with those meetings that we used to have it before, and COW has transitioned into a workshop, but what the value in having it there is that council can have a discussion about an item before it goes to council for a
Correct.
vote, because sometimes you have more questions you want staff to look into, or you really want to dig into it yourself first. So it does give a buffer in between getting an item and making a decision on it right away, Because if those items, if we didn't have committee of the whole like we're doing now as a workshop, all those items would go as business items for discussion on council agenda, which is fine, it doesn't matter, but then you're either potentially tabling it to the next meeting, but.
I think it works really good the way it is, guys.
I like the way it works, but I wouldn't mind like, well, how about a yearly update where they can put a presentation on and let us know that some backdoor things that you're doing that you normally wouldn't discuss. Familiarize us more of what you actually do on a day-to-day basis, and I think it would come in handy for the public and for us to realize how things work.
Well, I do want to let you know, if you ever want to come over to the liquor store and take a tour, I'd be happy to do that as well. I mean, I have an open door for all of you guys.
I've been there, it's awesome. I think I've toured everything we have now, and it's really cool. And also, leading up to that, I guess I'll talk about my next goal. It's revolving around that. So the last, about 6 months, I'm sure you guys saw some of those videos I did on the school referendum, and it made me think, like, people really like to see that sort of information, and I would like to do more of that with the city stuff. So I would like to do video work on each of our core aspects of our city, like a look behind the counter at the liquor store, a look at public works, like maybe a short ride along in a plow truck, or just some sort of video so people can see how it works. Maybe just a video about how City Hall works, a video about how PD works, even maybe if the fire department wants to be involved in that. I want to work with, there's a local videographer that I actually talked to last week about this idea. I was thinking about just doing it myself, but then this videographer, the Real Rail fan, happened to reach out and asked if there's anything that the city might want to collab with, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do that because, we've had such a focus on getting information out to people so they understand, right? And if we can do it in video form, I think people will eat it up. So that's something that, I think it's essential to do stuff like that. I've never seen another city do stuff like that. I know I've seen like interviews.
There actually are quite a few cities. I will say
Okay.
that, like, there's the city of Coon Rapids, city of Ramsey. There's quite a few
Okay.
cities that do, and sometimes we're focused on either PD, I think it's
Sure.
Wyoming, or Public Works are pretty famous for doing some in
Sure.
some cities, and they can be really funny. They can be really informative. That was one of the things that was on that slideshow, if we had a communications personnel, because I would love to have that here. It's a great way to get people involved in seeing what the day-to-day
Yes.
is like. It's just staff doesn't have the time.
Yes,
But,
so that
yeah.
is something I wanted to pitch as an idea. I would be like the narrator or whatever, and then we'd have, say if it was Public Works, Josh or whoever, somebody would show us the water treatment plant, things that the public can see. I know there's obviously things that the public shouldn't see, whatever, but, I was able to, potentially set it up so there's no cost to the city and we would get a copy. And we would get a copy that we could use on our social media, our Facebook, our website. I would get a copy that I could use on Facebook to spread out to everybody. And he would have a copy, and he would have first rights to post it. And it's open for negotiation or discussion, but I told him, if you want to have it up on your own stuff for 2 weeks so you get the brunt of the traffic, either way, it's a win-win for us. Because he's using his network, we would then use our network, I would use my network, and you guys could all share it. We could all get the community involved in understanding how everything works, so maybe we would get less questions or less misunderstandings on who does what. And I know, George, we talked about last month, adding that stuff to the website about, city council doesn't run the water plant, city, you know what I mean? So I think that would add to that. So I didn't know if you guys would be opposed. I didn't know if I needed direction on that, but I thought that would be a pretty cool deal, getting a local videographer involved and myself and city staff and just get information out to people.
With you sharing that goal, let's move into goals. So
Yep,
we have a half
perfect.
an hour here to write down any and all goals that
Yep.
you have as a council, and then we'll try to narrow it down or prioritize them.
And that was my first one, so it's pretty good introduction.
Thank you.
So what do you guys think about that idea?
I think it's definitely worth a try.
I-
See exactly how it goes, and
Yeah, now that it's, we could have the summer, we could do the fall, we could do really anytime. Some things are probably more valuable at different times, but I can work with the video guy, if you guys are okay with it. I didn't know if we'd even need permission since there's no dollars involved, but,
We would, and I would actually recommend that we have a policy drafted, just
Okay.
because if you have staff on something, it still is city content.
sure, yep.
So I'd want to make sure that I review that, and it be something that a policy was approved by council.
Okay, would we need like a special use permit for that, or just a policy that's overarching that we could, discretion of the board to?
Yeah, I think it could be a general policy that would overarch all of what you're looking to do.
Okay.
But, like, we have to make sure that what staff is gonna be involved, is it staff that have signed that their faces can be made public?
Sure.
On a digital, like, all that kind of background stuff.
Yep.
We would just have to, figure out first.
Okay. You guys like the idea and considering it,
As long as it don't cost us anything.
right? Nick?
Anything to showcase the city?
I said, like, besides financial stewardship, like transparency and accountability, and that's definitely towards the transparency side. Make people aware of what services they're paying for and how they're being delivered, and understanding scope of things, I think is good.
Sure, okay, well, that sounds good, that sounds like a good goal for this year. Does anybody want to start? I have a few more, otherwise if anybody's.
Go ahead and finish yours up.
All right, sounds good. So I know I've talked to Josh about this a bit. Pre-buying as much stuff as we can ahead of time for consumables, and I think Josh is probably, you've transitioned into this role, so I think you probably did a pretty good job. It's just something I always see more blades, string, trim, and line, like consumables that we always use, and I've talked to Josh, so I think that's a good goal, and I think he's been doing a good job over there. But that's just something like, if there's any other aspects of the city where we know we're gonna use something a lot of, would it make sense to buy in bulk? And I think you guys pretty much do a good job of that, but I thought a short few-minute discussion on that would be prudent. Is there anything in City Hall where it's like, yeah, we should pre-buy this, like,
We do, well, not really, I don't know about pre-buy, but we do buy in bulk
Okay.
all the time, and we do vet out different vendors all the time, whether it's Innovative or even Sam's Club. I did a price comparison one day between all the things we buy for, like, toilet paper, paper towels, paper plates, anything like that we may need. And we go wherever it's cheaper. We don't only buy one vendor, because we do price it out every month.
okay,
And we do stock up, so we do buy in bulk. Our paper for our copy printer, we get a huge delivery of a stack of boxes. So we're getting those better deals.
Okay.
Buying in bulk, yep.
and I'm sure, Keith, that's part of your daily job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure you got that. And it's kind of part of your daily job too, almost, huh, Josh?
Yeah, after we talked, I added a lot of different oils we get for different vehicles, so we got bulk oil coming in.
Great,
On order now for different weights that we didn't have bulk on, so we implemented that already. So
awesome.
And
How much-
antifreeze and antifreeze and any of them, like 50-gallon barrels of antifreeze?
Yeah, we don't, right now, we got like ATF, 1540, 5W30, 020. We use all these vehicles, we use different oils
Okay.
mainly. Antifreeze, I think, I'd have to look, I've had the mechanic narrow down which ones we use the most of and get all that in bulk.
Sure,
How much does it affect the price of oil by buying in bulk versus like 5 quarts?
a lot.
Quite a
Half or not?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's quite half.
it depends on the quantity, but it's substantial. And we buy, like, I was seeing stuff for like O'Reilly and Napa where though you'd have the onesie twosie where it just makes sense, but you're paying, $30 for 5 or more for 5 quarts versus if you buy it in bulk,
And part of it too is, like, liquor stores dramatically improved by having the storage space to have those.
Yep.
I mean, that was a huge driving factor, along with being on 65, was to have the ability for there to be inventory space. Public Works falls under that as well, like, Josh could pre-buy more items in bulk, but he doesn't have a place to put it.
Right.
So you can't put it on a shelf when you don't have shelf space, so there's that too. So I think we do a very good job of what we can, but there's obviously ways we could improve in some areas, but then it becomes where do we put it?
PD, can you buy like handcuffs in bulk or? There's nothing that you guys would need, anything like that, is there?
We buy our ammo by the pallet.
Okay,
but-
oh, yeah,
Yeah, but I don't really, it's a state bid price, so.
Okay.
It's per case priced, so even though we buy a pallet full, it's state bid price, so we don't get a break on it.
Okay, Well, sounds good. It's just something that I think was interesting when you see the checks. It's like, yeah. So I'm happy you guys are doing a good job with that. Thank you, Josh. Sidewalk infill. We're keeping that one on there, huh, Steve?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, I got 3 to put on there. Sidewalk, and street lights. Josie, as long as she's known me, those have been always my things.
And we need to get that one done this year, so I know we talked about that. So that one is, I'm really excited for that one. That one, you see a lot of people walking on Main Street for that one, so. My other one, liquor store sign, that is top of my list.
Mine too.
Um,
Figure a way to make that happen.
yeah.
Sign up there that says free beer tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes. That's a good
With your
one.
phone number for the complaints.
Hey, there's no false advertisement. Free beer tomorrow.
All right, and then continued contractor interactions so we can continue to get more competitive bids. That's something that I think that the sign up is great. I signed up for the stuff too, and I got an email, I believe, about outfitting the PD truck, or PD car, one of them, and I think it's great that we do that. If we can continue to push that, and continue to get more contractors involved so we get more competitive bids, and so that people know that this city is competitive with bids. And if you come in here with a nonsense bid, you're wasting your time. So if we continue to do that, we will continue to get competitive bids, and that's something we've been really good at. So I would like to keep focusing on that.
How's that list coming along since we decided to implement that?
That's a good question.
I think we're up to 32, if I remember right. Some people have signed up more than once because they put different trades in different categories. So I send out any of our documents or information to everyone who signed up. I don't say, well, if you only put roofing, I only send you roofing stuff. Everybody who signs up gets everything. So there's a couple extra in there. So maybe we're probably around, 27-ish people have signed up for it. I just put on Facebook, I think last week, another push for that.
Yep.
Because I haven't seen the numbers increase in quite a while, so I just promoted that again.
Good.
So it probably could have gone up by now, because it seems like when you promote it, it's gonna